For decades, this was a topic you just didn't touch in politics, a real non-starter. But that's all changed. We're talking about something huge. Medicare finally getting the power to negotiate prescription drug prices. And it's not a proposal, it's a landmark shift that's happening right now.
And let's be clear, this isn't just some small policy tweak. This is a massive deal. For the very first time, Medicare, which by the way is the single biggest healthcare payer in the entire country, can actually use its muscle to bring down the cost of medicine. This completely changes the game between the government and the big drug companies.
So what really makes this a historic first? Well, for years and years, the idea of Medicare negotiating was debated, fought over, and always blocked. The fact that it's now a reality is sending some serious shockwaves through the entire American healthcare system. So let's dig into how we even got here.
This power didn't just appear out of thin air. It's a key part of the Inflation Reduction Act. And that piece of legislation is now fundamentally reshaping how we manage the cost of prescription drugs in the United States.
You see, this is way more than just a new rule on the books. It's a fundamental change in what Medicare is and what it can do. And to really get a grip on just how big of a deal this is, you have to look at how things were versus how they are now.
And wow, the difference couldn't be more clear. Before, Medicare's hands were literally tied. It was illegal for them to negotiate prices directly. But now, that ban has been completely wiped away. Medicare can finally step up to the plate and use its massive buying power to push for lower costs.
And that is exactly why you're hearing experts call this one of the most significant healthcare cost reforms in recent history. It's a complete 180 from a policy that's been in place for a long time, and it's all aimed at tackling the high price of medicine for millions of Americans.
Okay, so we've talked about the policy, but what does this actually mean for people's wallets? It's one thing to change a law, but who's actually going to feel the impact of this? Let's follow the money and see how it affects millions of Americans. The scale here is just massive. We are talking about millions of people. Specifically, anyone enrolled in Medicare Part D, which is the prescription drug plan. They are the ones who are going to directly see lower out-of-pocket costs for their medicines.
And we're not talking about some rare, obscure medications here. The negotiations are targeting blockbuster drugs for some of the most common health issues out there. Things like diabetes, heart disease, arthritis, conditions that affect so many families all across the country.
So they're starting smart. They're not trying to do everything all at once. This first round of negotiations is zeroing in on about 10 really common, really expensive drugs. The ones that don't have a cheaper generic version yet, and place a huge financial strain on both patients and Medicare itself.
This all sounds promising, right? But the big question is, when will people actually see these lower prices at the pharmacy counter? Let's take a look at the road ahead and see what the timeline is for all of this to kick in.
So here's the game plan. The negotiations themselves are starting right now. But the really big date to circle on your calendar is January 1st, 2026. That's the day these new, lower prices actually take effect. And this isn't a one-and-done deal either. More drugs are going to be added to the negotiation list in the years to come, so this is definitely a story to keep an eye on.
So for the very first time, that door to price negotiation is wide open for Medicare. Starting with these first 10 drugs sets a really powerful precedent. And the big question everyone is asking now is, what does this mean for the entire healthcare system in the long run? Will it really lead to lower costs across the board? It's a huge question, and the answer is going to shape the future of healthcare costs in America.